From the Nillis Law Firm studio on the KFGO campus on a beautiful Thursday night. We hope you're enjoying yourself. We hope you're getting wherever you are going safely. Slow down, take it easy. A little bit of slick conditions out there. Winter's been here for 7 days, and we're already kind of a little tired of the snow and a little bit no sunshine. So we'll hopefully get that one of these days. But we are indeed from the Nillis Law Firm studios. I'm Travis Dunn, along with co-host Scott Taylor. We appreciate you joining us each and every Thursday evening. Make sure to stay tuned after as the Tennessee Titans take on the Green Bay Packers from lovely Lambeau Field, where I'm sure it's a little brisk. But with that, we do thank our sponsors: Nillis Law Firm, the Golf Center in Grand Forks, Ralph Engelstad Arena, the Sioux Shop in Ralph Engelstad Arena, Dave Noah Remax Legacy Realty, Jarrell's Hockey World, and the Pilot Mountain Hockey Academy. We appreciate their support, and that's how we do this show each and every week. We certainly appreciate them giving us the opportunity. It's like the guy, like your dad giving you the keys to the fancy car. This car's got a little bit of power in it. It's a mighty 790 KFGO. The text club number is 35270. Twitter at Travis G Dunn 1 and S Taylor and at S Taylor Sports. And a couple of things this weekend in Grand Forks, a big event, obviously the 1982 National Championship team at the University of North Dakota is being honored on Saturday evening. Many of them are in town already. Darren Jensen, Dean Decision, names that you know from the past. David Tippett will be there. Ed Belfour will be there. He's not an 82 guy, but he's doing one last shift, which will be tomorrow evening at the Ralph Engelstad Arena. Eddie played a little hockey game in Grand Forks last night with his buddies, a little pickup in their league game, and guys who played in that were Steve Johnson, and down the line they went. So it's a lot of things going on this weekend at the Ralph Engelstad Arena. So please make sure to look up the things online where you can participate and where you can see these players before and after, and they'll be happy to sign autographs, or if you just want to bend their ear, they will very much be ready to do so as well. They appreciate you all these years later. But we are from the Nillis Law Firm studio. The Nillis Law Firm provides legal services in more than 10 areas of practice, including business and corporate law, estate planning, wills and trust, probate, commercial litigation, adoption services, as well as real estate. A division of Nillis Law Firm is Northern Title, which provides complete closing and escrow services along with title insurance policies for all types of real estate transactions in North Dakota as well as Minnesota. Call Nillis Law Firm at 701-237-5544 or look them up on the World Wide Web at nillislaw.com. And with that, we're trying to get some audio stuff straightened out with our good friend Scott. So what we should probably do, Paulie, we'll take a quick break, 3 minutes, and get some of those breaks done early so we can talk more hockey. Our guests include the play-by-play voice of the Ottawa Senators of the National Hockey League, a little Sanderson conversation, Pinto, Jacob Bernard Docker, a team that's not doing great on the scoreboard, but they're doing great as they build towards winning that Stanley Cup in the next few years. So with that, we'll take a quick break. You're listening to Game on Hockey on the mighty 790 KFGO and 104.7 FM. Yeah, it is indeed one of the saddest things. Hey, Scott, you can now get back into Zoom and come back in. You can hang up on the phone part of the equation. We've got that thing figured out, and I'll carry on the conversation with Gordy Tummelson until you get on board. Okay. All right. And with that, we open the gate and we let our good friend Gord Tummelson in. It's hockey season, Gord. I mean, it sure feels like it right now, doesn't it?
It's hockey season, at least north of the border. I can assure you that.
Yeah, it's been snowing down here now for 6 days straight, and it seems
Oh my gosh. No.
we'd love it as kids, ball hockey on the street. I know the one thing we need to talk about though, the recruiting time of the year for you at Pilot Mountain, and one thing we need to explain. There may be coaches out there going, you know what, Pilot Mountain's going to come in and take all my grade A players. They're going to take the players that I'm relying on for my team to be successful this year. Let's talk about that very issue, Gord.
Well, first of all, we don't want to steal players or take players away that don't want to go somewhere else or don't have a reason to go somewhere else. A lot of kids, have two practices. They're great players, but they have two practices a week and play two games, and that's it. And so the offer of academy hockey is, 6 practices a week or two games and four practices. Certainly some recruitment opportunities that go far beyond just games. We were just down in Dallas, Texas. We had two of our teams down there, and our U18 boys and our U17 boys teams. And that's part of recruitment. We're looking for players always, but people are looking at our kids too, all over the United States and Canada. And to be live in Dallas and to be playing games and those kinds of things, that's really important to the players who are spending a lot of money on getting noticed. I guess is one thing, and getting better as part of their development program.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. So to explain, you also could be a periphery player that may not be getting a ton of ice time, but you need to work on those basic skills, and that's what the Pilot Mountain Academy allows you to do.
Yeah, we've taken a lot of kids who come to us who are not AAA players when they get to us, but if they put their minds to it and they put the effort in and do all the things we ask them to do, they're going to get there. They can get there if they want to. It's the dream. If you want the dream, go for it. I know Michael Jordan got cut at midget or varsity basketball, and his mom just told him, get better. Show up and get better.
Yeah, exactly right. And you know what? I'll go back to that. I mean, I was cut when I was 14, 16, 18, UND twice. So 5 times between age 14 and 20 before I finally made it and then able to move on from there. So you're right. The late bloomer circumstance is part of the equation as well, isn't it?
Sure. Well, Patrice Bergeron got cut at midget hockey from AAA.
Yeah, good point.
2 years later, he's playing junior hockey, and he's a hero and a star and a spokesman for the Boston Bruins, and all that good stuff. So wow, what a neat deal that is. So kids, if you want something bad enough, there's places to play and people who will help you get there. We're part of that scheme. We'd love to talk to you about it at pilotmountainhockeyacademy.com.
Yeah, exactly. And I was just going to ask how they get in touch with you. And you're the goaltending coach instructor as well. Your background, WHA goaltender. You spend an awful lot of time with these young men and women who play it, working on the skill of being a goaltender. It takes an awful lot, doesn't it?
My Lord, it's it's a neat position to be in. It's not the hardest position, I don't think, in the world, but it's the most important one, certainly in hockey. The pressure and the keeping the puck out and doing it right and getting it right and getting a little puck luck and getting all that stuff and handling the pressure and the emotion and the mental strain and all of those things. It's a 24/7 job for me to kind of work with the 8 goalies that we have, but it's lots of fun and wouldn't do anything else.
And it's obviously your passion. That's Gordy Tummelson, Pilot Mountain Hockey Academy. Thanks for joining us on this blustery Thursday night, Gord. We'll talk to you soon.
Hey, thanks, you guys.
You got it. That's Gordy Tummelson, Pilot Mountain Hockey Academy, pilotmound.com if you want to get in touch. Great opportunities, whether you're in Montana, North Dakota, northern Minnesota, or anywhere in Minnesota for that matter, or of course in southern Manitoba where the signal reaches from the mighty 790 KFGO. We'll take a break. When we come back, the play-by-play voice of the Ottawa Senators of the National Hockey League joins us, talking a little Jake Sanderson, a little Pinto, a little Bernard Docker. We got a lot of things going on. Of course, there's always that University of North Dakota connection with that as well. We'll take a quick break. You're listening to Game on Hockey. Scott Taylor, Travis Dunn, around the corner, Dean Brown. on a beautiful Thursday night in Fargo, North Dakota on the mighty 790 KFGO. Yeah, I really can't go for that. Can't go for more snow, but it's going to come regardless. So just sit back and enjoy it. Be careful out there. The roads are slick. A lot of cars slipping and sliding. So please take it carefully. Next week is Thanksgiving week. Hopefully the roads will improve that much more and we'll get on the highway and go eat a lot of turkey and all those fun things that come with it. And we can turn on our Christmas lights with that. But this segment brought to you by Jarrell's Hockey World in Grand Forks, in business for over 50 years, and the 2021 U.S. Bauer Retailer of the Year right here in our backyard. You have the access to experts who will outfit you and what you need to succeed on the ice, because hockey is what they do. Bauer Game Fit dealer allows them to scan your head, feet, and shooting style to ensure the best performance. Wherever you are hearing this message, Jarrell's has a good stock of CCM, Warrior sticks, bags and equipment, True skates and sticks, which are made in Winnipeg. And now they've added a line of goalie equipment and sticks as well. Windmill off-ice training items. This a great selection of Vaughn goalie gear. And if you are a referee or figure skater, they have gear for that as well. Jarrell's Hockey World has it all, and a great service department to make sure things are tuned up and ready to go. A 50-year reputation of dependability. Jarrell's gets it done. Jarrell's Hockey World, 1004 South Washington Street, Grand Forks, 701-775-0053, at Jarrell's Hockey on Twitter, which I'm not sure Twitter's becoming that important anymore. But anyway, we're going to open the gate up here and introduce to you a friend of Scott, and I've had him on my Around the Ring show on Saturday morning, Dean Brown, the play-by-play guy. I'll call him the play-by-play guy for the Ottawa Senators of the National Hockey League. Welcome to Game On with Scott Taylor and Travis Dunn.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
Fire away, Scott.
Um, Dean and I talked at the break a little bit. He sounds like a man who does the play-by-play, excuse me, a play-by-play for a team that's exactly the same as the team we had in Winnipeg last year. Good players, got a chance to go someplace, but they make unforced errors. They shoot themselves in the foot and lose games they shouldn't. Tell us about the way the Ottawa Senators have gone this year. They're in last place, which doesn't mean much after 16 games, but this is a team that certainly believes in itself, but still needs to get better.
Yeah, there's no question, guys, that this team, with the additions they made up front in the offseason, they are a better offensive team, despite the fact it's a team that's in the bottom third of the league right now. They're a team that's also top 10 in the league in offense. Their issues have been and continue to be defensive ones. And you're right, Scott, when this team has struggled and lost, all the wounds are self-inflicted. They have not been outclassed in any of the games they played in. They have competed very well. They score goals. But right now, with still what is a young team coming out of a rebuild, they are at that stage where the little details that good teams take care of, they still struggle with. And that's how they lose games right now. So, that's a hurdle that they have to get over. And, any team coming out of a rebuild, that's one of the steps you have to take if you have a team that's filled with a lot of really young players, which is what they have. So they had expectations for a better start than they've had, for sure. But also they didn't have the expectation that they would lose their number one center, their number one defenseman, and their number two defenseman all at the same time this early on. And in a cap league, there's no team that can really be as effective without those players. So they've had some bad luck, but even when they've played well, they've lost games they probably should have won, but only because they shot themselves in the foot.
Part of that young rebuild is almost making the University of North Dakota Fighting Hawks the farm team of the Ottawa Senators. You have two outstanding players in the Hawks and one who's getting better. Tell us about the trio from North Dakota, Pinto, Bernard Docker, and Sanderson.
Well, I'll start with Sanderson first. I've been doing this for 30 years. Well, I've been doing hockey, been broadcasting longer than 30 years. So I've been doing this for 30 years, and this franchise has had some great young defensemen join this team as rookies. Guys like Wade Redden, guys like Erik Karlsson, guys like Thomas Chabot. None of them have been this good this early, ever. None of them. Sanderson is right now with Chabot out, this team's number one defenseman. And if you came to a game and watched the game, you would have a hard time figuring out who's the guy who's only played 16 NHL games and is dominating the game. Last night in the game against Buffalo, which Ottawa won 4-1, he was the best player in the game, both teams combined. His poise, his athletic ability, his skating ability, he has come exactly as advertised, and to be honest, is better than I thought. As an old guy, I'm sometimes a bit jaded, and I'm kind of, we'll see. Yeah, let's, I've seen a lot of kids come in. Let's see. Erik Karlsson, he played he had to go to the minors. He played in the minors, Wade Redden was not an all-star when he stepped on the ice. Thomas Chabot has been a very good player, but he was insulated when he started. But he is full value. Sanderson is an outstanding player right now, and would be a top four defenseman on any team in this league. No question about it whatsoever. So he is both surprising in a very good way. And to be honest with you, it blows me away what he's able to do. Now, the other thing that we have to see now is the time. Because he is going to this year play more games than he has ever played in his life. That's part of the nature of coming out of college and going into pro hockey. You will play more games this year than you have ever played in your entire life at the highest level there is in the world. So, physically, what happens to you, mentally, what happens to you? Can you keep that resolve? Can you keep that edge? We'll have to find out. But in the early going, he has been absolutely stellar. JBD, it's been a longer path, didn't come as heralded, and he got called up this year. And in the limited number of games that he has played so far this year, he's only gotten into 5. He's been very good in that he hasn't been a guy where you point him on and go, there's a guy who's struggling, or there's a guy who made a big mistake. So for another young defenseman, maybe not with the same kind of resume that Sanderson has, if you're a young defenseman trying to make it in the NHL, for most guys, Sanderson excluded, but for most guys, it's the mistakes you don't make are the things that keep you in the NHL, not the great plays. There's not many young defensemen that are making many end-to-end rushes and being the first star getting 5 points in a game. That just doesn't happen very often. So to stay in the NHL, you have to be good defensively, and you have to be a guy that no one notices. And in 5 games, JBD has been that. Pinto has been up and down. He has been spectacular with the puck. He has been one of the best rookies in the league. He has been the rookie of the month in this league. His goal scoring, his release has been well noted. When we were in Tampa, the people in Tampa, compared his release to that of Kucherov, which I'm not sure you're going to get higher praise anywhere in that particular skill. And it was great when he was named the Player of the Month. His father and his grandfather were actually down in Tampa visiting the day that was announced. So that was a great personal moment for him. And, on another non-aligned or non-important topic as it relates to Pinto, being a 60-year-old heterosexual male, this was not something that dawned on me, but I've been told he's got smoldering hot blue eyes. So that doesn't relate to his hockey in any way, but I've been told he's got the smoldering hot blue eyes. So for whatever that's worth, he's got that too.
Oh, probably a lot of girls on the campus of University of North Dakota probably could share that information before I got there. By the way,
it's not new to them.
It's not new to them. This is a hockey show. This is called Game On Hockey every Thursday evening on the mighty 790 KFGO and 104.7 FM. Yeah, some of the topics we get into are rather interesting ones. They're always interesting with great hockey conversations each week. Scott Taylor is my partner in this circumstance as well. But one thing, we do this show on Zoom, and I see a picture behind you. The voice you're hearing, by the way, is Dean Brown, play-by-play voice of the Ottawa Senators of the National Hockey League. The skate behind you, the CCM tax with the number 4, defense. The importance of good defensemen, and good now in this National Hockey League, offensive defensemen in this league is more important than ever, and I anticipate it's going to continue on the same path. Thoughts? Yeah,
nothing's going to change there, Travis. There's no question about that. The biggest question, though, is there's a lot of great young offensive players who are coming into the league. All the Hugheses. I think there's 27 Hughes brothers or whatever the number is.
Somewhere in there.
It's just once one gets drafted, they just line up the next one. They just keep coming in. So there's lots of great young offensive defensemen coming in. The problem or the reality that you have to face in the NHL now in developing your players and being in a position to be able to live with the realities of what the game is now, is that in the change in the game, there's a place for those players now where maybe there wasn't before, but there's also a need for more depth at the position for every franchise, because you don't have to use any analytics or any really complicated metrics. You just count injured players. Defensemen now in this league get injured more than any other position in the league because you can't hold up. Defensemen can't protect each other the way they used to, and teams go through a lot of defensemen. So you're now in a situation in this league where it's not, do you have a good top 6 or do you have a good 8 guys so you got 2 spares? Most teams now over the course of a season will have to have within their organization 10 to 12 NHL ready, NHL capable defensemen. Now that doesn't mean it's a guy that's going to be able to play 82 games for you, but your guys in the minors have to be close enough to the NHL caliber that they can play games for you, because every franchise will need them and will use them. So the thing in this league now is it's not that you just need 1 or 2 good offensive players. You probably need 4 or 5, and you need other guys as well. And so the problem now is it's not just being able to have that solid 6 with 2 guys who can fill in. You got to have 12. And so that has really made that position and the development of that position maybe the most important in hockey. Because to be frank, if you look at the National Hockey League and you look at the makeup, the National Hockey League relies for stocking positions, relies mostly on Europe to stock goaltenders. Like you just start looking through the list of where everyone's from. There's more non-North American, in my case, non-Canadian goaltenders in the league than there are Canadians and Americans in the league. Here in Ottawa, you've got one of the guys is Swedish. A couple of weeks ago, they're both Swedes. If you look at Buffalo last night, they got an American, but they, have another kid that's, also an American, and that's rare now in the league to have 2 North American goaltenders on the same team. That team, that doesn't happen very often. So it's not just that, there's an influx now of smaller, more offensive players, because those kind of guys can thrive in this game. But the problem is not whether you have them. It's when you lose them, which now is almost inevitable. Can you replace them? And that's the bigger challenge in the National Hockey League.
talk about the injuries to your defense and how much it has hurt the Senators this season. You've lost number 1 and number 2. Do the Senators have the players in Belleville that can come in and get that job done?
You know what, Scott? No, because the caliber, the caliber of the players that they've lost, no, you can't. Sanderson right now is replacing Shabbat, and he's doing a great job doing that. But you have guys who come and play, and they come up. But in anything, the guys who are number one for a reason. And in this league, nobody has a number one and another number one. So you do the best you can. And for Ottawa, a younger team, and still building its depth as an organization, what you hope to do is just tread water until you get your guys back. Next week there's a possibility that Shabbat and Zub may both be back, which would be very good for this team. But Ottawa's like a lot of teams, you have to tread water until you get a position to get your guys back. And in the case of Norris, who's going to be out almost all the season at center, you have to find a new reality because you can't replace number one. So it becomes more of a committee assignment.
There you go. Yeah, well, that's Dean Brown. He's the play-by-play voice of the Ottawa Senators. He's going to continue on this conversation after we take a quick break. But just to give you an update on this weekend's activities at the Ralph Engelstad Arena in Grand Forks, North Dakota, where Tyler Cleven, whose rights are owned by the Ottawa Senators, will share some information with Dean about that young man after the break. But the University of North Dakota Fighting Hawks take on the University of Miami of Ohio. Friday is Ed Belfour, one more shift. So the Hockey Hall of Famer is in town and doing a little Belfour Spirit signing in Grand Forks tomorrow night. Actually, tonight, right now. This is Thursday, so he's at the Ralph right now doing some things. And tomorrow night, the one more shift. Saturday night, the 1982 National Championship team, 40-year anniversary. Dave Tippett is one of the guys who will be there. Dean Decision, Darren Jensen, who 37 years ago played his first NHL game for the Philadelphia Flyers when Pelle Lindbergh was killed in that tragic accident. So lots going on at the Ralph Engelstad Arena this weekend. And of course, you have to get your gear at the Sioux Shop. You can get all your Hockey Hall of Fame gear, your football, basketball, volleyball, soccer t-shirts, jerseys, quarter zips, hoodies, and more. Shop online at the Sioux Shop at siouxshop.com or in the Ralph Engelstad Arena. We'll take a break. More Dean Brown, more Scott Taylor, more Travis Dunn. Hey, I've got a game tomorrow night to do with Tim Hennessy at the Ralph as well. Hope the weather gets better for that. I hope wherever you're going, you're getting there safely. You're listening to Around the Rink. Pardon me, that's Saturday morning. Game on Hockey on the Mighty 790 KFGO and 104.7 FM.
Happens all the
A
time.
little Florida. Is that how you pronounce that?
Yeah.
Florida.
Florida.
Yeah, Florida. We
Yeah.
all wish we might be heading to Florida soon. And I know there's a hockey team from Ottawa that's going to be heading out to the West Coast soon. I'm sure there's Dean Brown will be clapping about that. But the play-by-play voice of the Ottawa Senators is joining us. Dean Brown with Scott Taylor, Travis Dunn. This is the Mighty 790 KFGO, and this is Game on Hockey each and every Thursday evening. Remember to stay tuned. Tennessee at Green Bay in the Mighty NFL after this. And then tomorrow night, 6:30, Tim Hennessy with the pregame show, Miami at the University of North Dakota Hockey. And he and I do the play-by-play call on Friday evening. And then 6 o'clock puck drop, so 5:30 pregame show on KFGO on Saturday evening for that. But with that, we carry on the conversation. And in the break, we were talking with Dean about the new rules in place for warm-ups, things that have changed over the course of time. Now helmets are required for certain players in warm-ups. Explain that, please.
Yeah, apparently one of the things that came out of the Board of Governors meetings that I didn't know about, I guess tonight on TSN's Insider Trading, they were talking about it, that there's going to be I guess the thoughts are unanimous, and I can understand why, for safety reasons. Players will be required to wear their helmets during the warm-up. Now it's just, whether they want to or not. And it's going to be like when helmets became mandatory, it's going to be grandfathered. So I think the number is, if you were into the league before the 2019-20 season, you can continue to not wear a helmet if you choose to. But if you came in after that, you don't have a choice. So it's like players who came in before that certain date didn't have to wear a visor if they didn't want to, but everybody afterwards has to. So it's basically grandfathered in. But put it this way, any new players now will not have a chance. Must wear a visor and must have your helmet on in the warm-up.
Now, explain to people who don't understand why a young kid would want to go into the warm-up without a helmet on, with pucks flying everywhere, shots on goal that miss the net, and as we talked about in the break, guys have been hit in the head lots of times before during warm-ups. Why don't they want to wear a helmet in the warm-ups?
Well, there's three big reasons. Number one, the trading card companies like to get pictures of those rookie cards, especially with the guy on the ice, and it's you can't stage it. He's either on the ice, but they like to get that shot where everybody can see his full face, his hair, his head, and how he actually looks. With no helmet on. Makes for a great card, especially for the rookie card, to have that first one where you see them. Number one. Number two, hockey mums. Lots of mums have told me for that first game, I want to get some pictures. We're going to send them to Aunt Stella. And like, if they have the helmet on, she's not going to, so you do get that. A lot of the hockey moms don't want the helmet on for that first game. After that, they want you to wear it for that first game. And number three, and I think people can understand this, a lot of them are young, attractive, professional athletes, and there's people who might be attracted to them and they to the other at the games, and so you might want people to see exactly how lovely you are. And we were all lovely at one point in our lives, so I think we can all understand that. I think sometimes we forget that they are, especially when they're rookies, they are teenagers oftentimes, so they have those same drive, urges, and self-awareness stuff that we had when we were that age, except we weren't good athletes. So those are the three biggest reasons. The big reason for putting them on, obviously, is the simplest one. It is far safer. It is crazy not to wear a helmet at any time, but if there's three reasons why players might not want to for the warm-up, those would be the big three.
For those people who don't know, tell the Dean Brown story. Talk about the Marvel Cinematic Universe and your origin story. How does Dean Brown come from the West to Ottawa to be the voice of the Senators?
Well, Scotty, for me, I am the luckiest guy I know. I have never applied for a job in this business. All the jobs I've had were offered to me, including the first one. When I grew up in Manitoba. I grew up in a little farming town just outside of Winnipeg, Warren, Manitoba, and played everything, played hockey, at the time I was playing football, and I played junior football, and I got interviewed by a guy from the station in Winnipeg, CFRW. And after he interviewed me, he said, "You ever think about going into radio?" I said, "No, I'm thinking about being a professional football player. Come on." So when that didn't happen, I saw him again. He gave me his card, said, "Give me a call." So I went in, and basically Brian Stone, the news director, was there, and they gave me some BN Wire copy to read. I went in the studio, read it, and they offered me a job. I had no job. I planned on going to university, but I thought, well, this could be a good summer job, so I'll do this. And I was there and I did overnight news. I was not in sports. I was reading overnight news. And I was only there for 2.5 months, and I got offered a job in London, Ontario for twice the money. So I went, well, I'll keep doing this for a while. While I was in London, I was doing news. The guy who was doing sports went on a 6-month sabbatical to find himself. Apparently he did and didn't want to come back. So I was the guy who knew the most about sports. And so they said, you want to do the sports? And I said, yeah, sure. So then, 2.5 years later, stationed in Ottawa, wanted another guy for their football broadcast. So they offered me a job. I moved to Ottawa, switched into sports full time. Did the Ottawa Rough Riders broadcast. First year I did the sidelines. Second year I was the color guy. Third year I was the play-by-play guy. And then after doing football at various incarnations for 9 or 10 years or whatever it is, station I worked for, got the hockey broadcast rights and asked if I wanted to stay in football or did I want to do the hockey. And we had to apply, but they basically said, if you want to. So I said, yeah, I'd love to do the hockey thing. So I had not done one hockey broadcast at any level, midget, junior, anything, when I did my first NHL game. My first hockey broadcast was an NHL broadcast. And then after I was doing that for a couple of years, when I was still doing football, I was doing some stuff for the Canadian Football Network, just doing the interviews in Ottawa and sending the tape in. And the guy who ran that was John Shannon. So after a couple of years, John gave me a call one day and said, Dean, why is it he at that time, he became the executive producer of Hockey Night in Canada. And he called me one day and he said, Dino, why is it that you don't work for me? And I said, well, John, you've never offered me a job. He said, well, would you like to work for me? And I said, well, is it full time? He said, no, just for fill in games here and there. And I said, well, I'll have to ask the guys at the radio station. And they said, yeah, sure. We'd love one of our guys on Hockey Night in Canada. We'll let you out of radio to go do that. So then I still worked radio and did 15 years of Hockey Night in Canada, as well as I also did at times, I did for 12 years, no more, 17 years. I did some radio, some regional TV, doing the Senators broadcast package on TV and Hockey Night in Canada. So that was kind of, and like I said, I'm the luckiest guy I know. I've never applied for a job. So that's kind of the Dean Brown sportscasting tale of the tape.
But you didn't make the Canadian Football League as a player.
No, I really
to this day.
Yes, it does, because I really enjoyed, I loved hockey when I played, but I missed 2 important years. I was out for 2 years with injuries. First year, I broke my foot, my whole foot and all the toes. The second, when I came back, I was a goalie. The second year, in a preseason game, remember Steve Patrick, James Patrick's older brother? Yep. Shot from the point was a knuckleball, ducked under my glove, broke my hand. There's pins in it now. So I missed the whole season. So when you miss 14 and 15, you're basically done. So I was frustrated. I was angry. And so when I came back, I said, I'm not playing goal anymore. So I played in the Interlake Juvenile League, which, as you're well aware, Scott, is a little rough. Yeah. But I enjoyed that because I had a lot of aggression to get out, and I was playing as a defenseman, which of course I couldn't skate worth a damn because I had spent my entire life in goalie skates. But it was great because you could get out your aggressions out. And I think in my last year, I was not ejected for one game. I think there was one game where I didn't get ejected. So that was good for me therapeutically. And I enjoyed that. I have to say, I don't brag about this, but I did have a good time. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, exactly.
but then, that's when I started playing football, and I was playing a bit in high school, and my high school coach said, you might want to try playing in the city league because, and I said, well, okay. So I went in and tried out for the St. James Cobras midget football, made the team, had a good time. And then I played junior football for the Winnipeg Rods. Norm Rawhouse, a former Winnipeg Blue Bomber, was my coach. And I got a chance actually because of his connections, not because I was fantastic. I got a chance to go to a Bomber pre-camp, but not as a guy who was trying out. I was a guy who was catching balls, because they just needed some guys who were available in the afternoon who didn't have jobs, me, to go and catch balls for Dieter Brock, because Dieter came in early and he needed guys to throw to. So they got some junior guys, and there was some, Poplawski was there, the guys who lived in Winnipeg, they were there. And my most embarrassing athletic moment in my life happened during that, because as a junior football player, the league was very good back then. There was as many players coming out of junior football to pro as there were university players coming out. Yeah, league was very good. But I had never, ever had the chance to be on the field catching balls from a guy who could throw like Dieter Brock. So the first time I ran a flat pass, I come out, I barrel out, I turn back for the ball. It's coming, beautiful, boom, right through my hands, hit me in the chest and knocked the wind out of me. He threw it so hard, it knocked my wind out. So I'm on the ground wheezing because the ball hit me. Not exactly a proud moment as an athlete when you're supposed to catch the ball, but in fact, it has knocked the wind out of you. So that's kind of when, maybe I'm not going to make it. Maybe this is not going to happen for me,
Oh, that's the voice of, everybody wants to be something else in their lives, no matter what they've achieved. And you want to be a football player, you want to be a hockey player. Well, in this case, we're playing radio. That's Dean Brown. That's the voice, believe it or not, of the Ottawa Senators of the National Hockey League, talking football and all the way he got there. And it was my friend Scott Taylor. You are indeed listening to Game on Hockey on the mighty 790 KFGO and 104.7 FM. Just to highlight the way you got where you got, I anticipate today the odds of that happening are very, very minute. Would that be a good statement?
Yeah, it's impossible. It's not possible.
Yeah. Peter Mansbridge, same thing. The CBC's national news. He worked in Churchill, Manitoba, announcing either trains or airplanes, and someone heard him, and they end up working his way to being the CBC national news anchor. So those things do happen.
I'm at that age now where kids in journalism school contact me to write an essay because they have to find some old guy who's just hanging on by his fingernails and talk about his life. So I get a lot of those calls now. And I tell them all the time, I said, my son's 23, and so he's not into broadcasting, but we're talking about getting jobs. And he early on, he says, so Dad, how did you go? And I tell him, I go, well, Dad, that's not going to help me in any way. I said, I know. I said, you can't first of all, you can't get into our business now unless you have a broadcasting or journalism degree, simply because no one needs to hire someone who doesn't have that. But the hard thing is that in our business still, the thing that keeps people around is relationships and the it factor. Either you have it or you don't. And that's one of the things that is still a reality in this business and very hard to find. But the guys who hang on for a long time, usually because they have lots of relationships and because they have whatever the it is.
Yeah. Or you're on the air at WKRP in Cincinnati. Well, Dean,
see, we still talk about that.
Yeah, here we are.
Here we are still. Yeah, I'm doing radio in Fargo, North Dakota. Scott's up there doing it on Zoom in Winnipeg. We have faces for radio. There's no doubt about that. Dean, thanks so much. One quick thing before I let you go. Okay. The defensive core of the Ottawa Senators, they're not a very physical group. Is that correct? Would that be fair?
They have a couple of guys, but I know where you're going with this. And they tried to get Tyler Clevin to leave school last year, and he decided to stay an extra year. But that was not just placating him and saying, no, they really made a hard charge to get him to come out to the point where, to tell you, I know we're running short on time, just tell you a little, he's a big fisherman. He's a big fisherman. And I know guys who are professional fishing guides around here. And one of the plans was, I was asked, if we get him up here, somebody to show him around, could you line up some fishing stuff? I said, absolutely. We'll get him on a boat. He's going to catch a ton of fish and he's going to love that. And that'll still happen at some point. But yeah, they want and need and expect to have Tyler Clevin in their fold fairly soon. Obviously, at the end of this year, they're hoping.
Yeah, he had a bit of an injury last week. He's back in the lineup this week, but I can say this. I would call him a big hitter. He can play the physical game, and that's one thing UND is lacking this year. For those out there frustrated with UND's record, there's not a ton of grit, and when he's out of the lineup, the grit kind of goes away. So he's the big hitting guy back there. And to be honest with you, the college game is something that he's potentially outgrown, because when he hits guys, he's so big, he gets penalties because he's end up hitting guys in the head. And those rules in the college world are a little more strict than the National Hockey League rules. I think the game will fit him very well.
Yeah, well, they can't wait to get him up here. And, he's one of those guys that's probably going to need some time in the AHL first. And there is no shame in that. There's not a whole lot of Sandersons who just start and walk into a playing role in the NHL. But he's definitely the kind of player that they need on this team. And to be frank with you, every team needs on their team, because as much as this game has changed, there are a couple of things that have not. And big and angry are good for the game. As I've always said, a little hate in hockey is a good thing.
Darn right it is. Hey, we do appreciate, Dean, you being on board. Scott, your final word with Dean, but I always appreciate when a real pro comes on a show that an amateur is putting on. We really appreciate it.
Anytime, guys. Anytime you want to talk.
One quick last word. How good is Tim Stützle?
Tim Stützle one day is going to be a fantastic player. His puck skills, I'll tell you what, Scotty, they are off the charts. But right now, he is still learning this game. You know, his giveaway ratio is still too high, and there's just times where he can't sense or feel or anticipate when pressure is coming. But just his natural hand-eye coordination, his natural skills are. If you see him in practice, Scotty, he does some amazing things. But like again, he's still, what is he, 21? You know,
Yeah.
he just a couple of months ago earned the right to drink in the United States. You know, so he is going to be a fantastic player. Last night he got 2 points and he had a bad game. You know, like he's one of those guys that even when he doesn't play well, the puck finds him. So he is going to be one day going to be a very, very special player.
Well, the future is very bright in Ottawa, and we sure appreciate the bright star of Dean Brown, the play-by-play announcer, joining us. Thank you on this beautiful day with the Bobby Orr skate in the background. I didn't explain that. A picture of the skate with number 4, the greatest ever, Bobby Orr. Thank you very much, Dean. Really appreciate you joining us today.
Anytime, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Dino. Appreciate it.
The segment was brought to you by the Golf Center in Grand Forks. Well, been in the golf business for over 35 years and recently received the 2021 Golf Digest prestigious Top 100 Fitters in America award. They will custom fit all clubs, including PXG, Titleist, Ping, and TaylorMade. This is the best time of year to get those club fittings done. Your swing's still in a good spot. Hey, we were playing golf 7 or 8 days ago. Now it's snow on the ground, but hey, your swing's in a good spot for that fitting. Get ready for next season. The clubs will be there to start right out of the gate. They also have great sales on all of their stuff in Ping drivers, Titleist drivers. The new stuff's coming in. Old stuff is less expensive. Great opportunity to do so. Brian and the guys will take care of you. 3001 South Columbia Road, Grand Forks, or 701-775-0019. 30 seconds, Scott, to wrap things up. How do you feel?
I can't get out of here fast enough. I have a very, very bad cold. It's been a tough night, but we got through it. Thanks to Dean Brown, who was tremendous. Gordy Tummelson was tremendous.
Yes.
Travis Dunn saved the day. And I'm going to go get tea and cough syrup and go to bed early.
Darn right. Sleep well, get better soon, my good friend.
We will talk to you next week.
That's Scott Taylor bidding adieu from the big city of Winnipeg. Probably a little cooler up there, but hey, that's the trend from this neck of the woods as well. Well, great show. Scott played hurt. Dean Brown delivered. Gordy Tummelson, always interesting to talk to Gordy about the Pilot Mountain Hockey Academy. Make sure to stay tuned for some football. Make sure to stay tuned for Miami at UND hockey tomorrow night with Tim Hennessy and Travis Dunn on the color and analyst. I had to do a pitch there. For my good friend Polly Alliance, who runs the show back there. Learned a few new things today with a new computer system. Sound system's all ready to go. So Scott Taylor, go drink some hot tea, some honey, get some cough drops in you, and go to sleep and have a great night's sleep. Wake up much better tomorrow. So with that, we will bid you adieu from the studios of KFGO, the Nilles Law Firm studios, for Game On Hockey. Join us again next Friday, where my guest will be, because it's Thanksgiving. Who's the guest going to be, Scott? I told you who it was going to be. Yeah, Jay Caulfield. Jay Caulfield will be joining us next Friday. Lots to think about, but make sure to tune in on Saturday morning as well. 104 for Around the Rink. For again, Scott, Travis, Dean, you've been listening to Game On Hockey on the Mighty 790 KFGO and 104.7 FM.